Hey guys, this is Puzzle Fox. So I'm finally starting up my YouTube channel. Gonna try to get my first video uploaded tonight. And just as an introduction to my channel, I'm gonna kick off with the build of my son's got a little 1992 Ford Ranger that we did a V8 swap in. So we pulled the engine out of my 1991 5-liter LX and put it into a little 92 Ford Ranger that he had. He got it for pretty cheap, had a 3-liter V6 in it that ran like crap. The clutch finally went out in it, so we decided that it was time to start doing this work. So this first video that I'm doing, it kind of jumped around. I thought I had some more footage of it, but it kind of jumps ahead from when we were first trying to pull the engine to after we had already pulled the engine out of the Mustang and we were working on resealing it, putting some new gaskets in it. So that's just a little forward about what you'll see in this next little bit. Just kind of going through cleaning that engine up, getting it resealed, and getting it to the point where it was ready to go into the Ranger. So I'll put the video footage after this and just put some excerpts that I had from that. And I really want to get this channel up and running and get it up to speed to kind of where the Ranger is today and where I'm at with the Mustang today. So I'll leave it at that, and I hope you guys like this. Please subscribe or like and all that good YouTube stuff, and hopefully we'll get caught up on this and get to seeing where I'm at on the Mustang right now. As you can see here, we got the Mustang parked over on the other side back behind the bike. That engine is coming out of there. That's got the old 5.0 HO engine in it, and we're dropping it in the son's Ranger to replace the 3.0 V6, right, Owen?
Yeah.
So this is Owen's little truck. Got it for a bargain, but it runs like crap. But it still ran and got him by for a little while, and now the clutch went out, so instead of sticking more money into it, we're pulling the 5-liter out now finally and getting it in here. Sana and I are back at it out in the garage. So again, if I haven't talked about it much yet, we have a 302 V8, a 5-liter 5.0 out of the red Mustang there, the Wild Strawberry Mustang. And we're swapping it into the son's Ranger here. So right now, we had pulled the engine apart and pulled a bunch of seals out of it, and we actually had a seal that ran along the valley of the engine back here, and you can kind of see it where there's some residual left there, but right in this area the gasket that was in there had actually kicked ahead, so it had a straight path down onto the bell housing and the transmission behind the engine. It was pretty black. I'll probably upload some pictures of it, but we're in the process. We read that these Explorer manifolds work for dropping this 5-liter into the Ranger. The stock little Mustang manifolds, bent up, if you want to call them headers, didn't fit. They actually hit the passenger side rail.
That was both rails.
Oh, it actually, Owen said it hit both rails. So after some research, we learned that the Explorer manifolds when they had 5-liter in the Explorer in about the mid-late 90s will work. I actually found these for a pretty good deal, or actually Owen paid for them. Found these on Craigslist, so we picked them up from a guy. So just thought I'd show another glimpse of what we're doing here. So we're finally getting back to, it's been about three and a half weeks since we've been out here. We were out here just around New Year's and started painting this block up, and now we're finally finding the time and putting this engine back together. So I'll probably show a little bit more in a little bit once we get a little further. All right, so we painted this engine and we left the paper on it because we weren't sure when we'd get back to it again. So this is the first time we're seeing the engine without paper on top of it
After painting
the block. So what we did was just kind of clean it up the best we could. We didn't get like very super carried away, but we just cleaned up the engine block as best we could, scraped all the oil and gunk off of it, and used, I think we used carb cleaner or brake, maybe it was brake cleaner, and tried to clean it up the best we could. Sorry for the noise in the background. We got the radio on and my nice little heater just kicked on. So yeah, so we kind of cleaned it up. I took the stock intake manifold and just bead blasted it, and we just left that bare aluminum. And the oil pan and valve covers, cleaned those up a little bit too and painted them gray, and basically did the long block in black. So that's what we got. So we're gonna start putting things back together here.
So now we got both the gaskets, all the gaskets in there for the intake. We put RTV on it, and then here comes intake.
And now you just make sure you line the hole up. It actually works better if you have two people.
And do it for YouTube.
All right. I need bolts. As you can see, we're making a little more progress on this. My kid ordered some Felpro gaskets, and I don't know if I showed it before or not, but you can kind of see here they have kind of a nice blue rubber silicone gasket that went in there, so we just stuck a little extra silicone RTV on the top and bottom of that just to make a good seal, hopefully. And gonna start torquing things down, making progress. Owen's learning about torque values and torque sequences. So we don't have a shop manual or anything for this engine that I can recall anyway. So we're looking stuff up on the internet, getting the torque sequences. So this one kind of has kind of a crisscross star pattern where you torque down to 10 foot-pounds first, right, Owen?
Yeah.
And then follow up with an 18 foot-pound sequence.
Can we tell the sequence?
Yeah.
So you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
So there you have it, folks. So now Owen already torqued them down to the 10 foot-pounds. Now he's doing the 18 foot-pounds. So he's going through that same pattern. The nice little Felpro rubber gasket that's under there, staying in place really nice.
Yeah, let's Velcro.
So it's a lot nicer than the cork one. Originally, this engine has 126,000 miles on it, and like I said, the original cork gasket that was under here had kicked out of place, so this whole back end of the engine and the bell housing was all caked with oil. Alright, so we're getting a little closer now. Got the valve covers on, the intake, lower intake manifolds on and torqued. Got the timing cover on. We're
12 you said, right?
15.
Oh, and got this nice little gasket for the oil pan. It's a one piece. It looks like a little silicone gasket. And in the rail here, it's got must have a piece of steel in there. It's pretty firm in there. But it's a pretty nice little gasket here. I think it's supposed to be reusable if it needs to be. So just thought I'd show that. It's a nice looking gasket there. So we're ready to start dropping the oil pan on and continue on with engine reassembly. Alright, I'll add the caveat that we are kind of your shade tree mechanic amateurs here, and we're kind of looking up torque specs online. So it's said to do like 7 to 9 foot-pounds in no particular sequence for the first step, and then 10 to 13, I believe, for the second step. So we're kind of doing the plan of attack of kind of squishing the gasket down a little bit and just going back to front. And then we'll go along with the torque wrench and finish torquing them and tightening them. Alright, so we got the oil pan on and torqued on, replaced the spark plugs. Got the damper just mounted loosely on the engine because we didn't want to spin the crank, so we could put the distributor back in right where it was, how we had it. I had a little mark on there to mark where the rotor was in there. Working on putting injectors back in the fuel rail. So that's where we're at right now. Alright, wrapping up out here for the morning. Son's got to go do some other stuff for the rest of the day, so here's kind of where we're sitting at now. Got the oil pan on, balancer, valve covers I think we had on already. We started putting the stuff back up on the intake manifold, dropped the distributor in, got the fuel injectors in and the fuel rail. Had some issues with getting the bolts in for the fuel rail. I had bead blasted this at work and must have had a bunch of bead blast material down in the holes, so it took a little bit to get that kind of cleaned out, poking around in there with a screwdriver or a pick and blowing it out and sucking it out with a vacuum to make sure we could get the bolts in there decent, and I think I got it good now. I'm actually debating, because the fuel lines in the Ranger come up along the driver's side, so we got them capped off right here. And the original fuel rail on the Mustang comes up on the passenger side towards the front of the engine. So I had noticed someone had on Facebook Marketplace had an Explorer intake, upper and lower intake, and the fuel rail and all the injectors on there. So I might actually look into that and kind of do that kind of as a gift for the son to have a little bit nicer, the better flowing intake that the Explorers were supposed to have, that GT40P or GT40 style intake that was on those. So I might look into that and maybe pick that up, and we might be pulling this intake manifold back off while the engine's out of the truck. So anyway, stay tuned for that, and we'll kind of play around with that and figure out what's going on. So, well, the son and I were out here working on this again a little bit tonight. We got the heater core rails bolted up here, the engine wiring harness on and everything hooked up. Started to put the distributor cap on with all the spark plug wires, and of course it looks like you have to route the spark plug wires different with the Explorer style manifolds on it and run a couple of them underneath. They're just way too short to fit around and over the top, and you'll be of course sitting against the manifolds. But then if you run them underneath the bottom here, especially cylinder 3 here, it's I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's very close to the manifold there once you get that spark plug boot even pressed on there. So I think we're going to have to figure out a different plan of attack, if we can get some different spark plug wires, or I told my son maybe we'll just spring for some actual exhaust headers that'll fit on this engine and fit into that little Ranger engine bay and clear the frame rails on there. So I'll keep you posted on what we decide, what we figure out, and how we proceed.